guys, Nate Richards here from Richards Guitar Studio, and I want to show you today the drill of the week, number 10, and it's a classical guitar technique called rest stroke. The classical term is apoyando, and for the thumb we're going to play free stroke, which is it's called tirando. So a rest stroke on the classical guitar, you play your, let's take your index finger, put it on the high E string, and when you pluck the high E string, you're going to land your finger onto the B string. So it's not going to pluck up into the air. That's a free stroke. We're going to land onto the next string. And you could practice doing index, middle, back and forth, where they both touch the B string after they've completed the stroke. So that's the first idea. The second idea is your upper knuckles should be a couple strings behind the high E string if that's where you're playing. So if you look at your hand, how it's set up on the guitar, essentially the upper knuckle, let's say it's directly on top of the E string when you do a free stroke and just pluck into the air like this. When you do a rest stroke, you want to pull your upper knuckles back, maybe over the G or D strings. That way it can follow through into the B string easily. So let me play the example for you. So that's the example, and so the fingering that I have here is a good fingering from a guy named Yobet. And he always recommended when you're doing descending scales, you start on your A finger, which is your ring finger, and descend A, M, I, so ring, middle, index, and then continue alternating the middle and the index. So you notice over top of the notation I have A, M, I, M, I, M, I, and so on. And then the first note, the P, that's your thumb, that's going to be a free stroke. So what you do with that is you do it at about this angle, so it goes kind of upwards into the index finger. So again, it sounds like this. Also notice that when I'm playing the 3rd fret D and the 3rd fret G, on classical guitar most of the time you use your pinky for that. Number one, the neck is wider. And number two, the 3rd finger is usually doing something else underneath of it, playing a bass melody or an arpeggio or something like that. So the main thing you want to focus on is really following through with each finger into the next string. As you go down the scale, you're going to pull your hand back like this. You don't want to bend the wrist to compensate. So if I'm starting here, I'll try to exaggerate a little bit. I go to the next string, I pull my hand back, then I pull my hand back even more. Then I move it forward to get ready for the high E string. Pull it back, back. Then my thumb plays again, and I go forward again to the high E string. Back. So your arm is going to follow where your fingers are playing. That way you play the same rest stroke technique on the high E string as you would on the D string, rather than, this technique and then sort of like this way on the D string. So you don't want to change your fingering technique, you just want to move your arm with you. Alright? So one more time through. So any questions, Richards at richardsguitarstudio.com. Notation is up at the blog, and have fun with that one.